And some of the things that are very interesting to cook because they change, cooking eggs. You know, boiling some, sunny side up, scrambled. Rice. It just grows so much when you cook it. Oatmeal. Making mayonnaise. Really interesting, and sometimes it fails, but gelatin. Meringue. You make meringue and then put little blobs on a cookie sheet and leave it in the oven overnight, and you have a little meringue, airy cookie. Bread. Having a distinct rhythm of the day and a distinct rhythm of the week is also very important for young children, so that they know what to expect when they get up in the morning. Have the time that you do any formal things pretty much the same time every day. Have bedtime the same. Have the ritual of going to bed be the same. It gives them a sense of security, and it'll diffuse a lot of the difficulties that you might have with discipline. Well, I don't want to do that now. And you say, well, now it's time to do that. And they pretty soon learn that when it's time to do something, you just do it, and it's not negotiable. It just happens, and you don't even have to be mean about it. That's what we're doing now. And proceed. Have a bread making day. You can have a painting day. You can have a go to the park day, play with friends day. So that each day there's something special that happens. And children will soon learn that is a comfortable way to live in a rhythmic way. Okay. I'm going to give you a few minutes to ask some questions on this particular time span. I'd like you to limit your question to no more than 2 short sentences, and that will help us a lot to get as many people a chance to ask a question. So are there any questions? Yes.
With your seasonal table, do you light the candle and let it burn all day, or it's just a process in the morning, or is it sort of goes into the rhythm of the household?
Well, I would, if I do it at meals, I would put it out at the end of the meal.
Yeah, snuff it. Yeah.
If you do it at a formal time when you're telling a story or doing a puppet show, put it out at the end. We tend to get distracted, and candles can burn down houses. So
yeah, I know.
you know,
yeah.
you want to do it at your safety level, and if you're a very aware person, you might be able to keep it burning. I can't. I'm easily distracted, so I would put it out at some particular time and make it a habit to do so. David?
There is the point also that lighting a candle is part of the ritual. So if it is a storytelling session or a meal, lighting the candle being part of the ritual of that session, then dousing the candle at the end can also be part of the ritual of that session.
And that's another thing. It's much better to snuff the candle than it is to blow it out. It's more of a finishing ritual type thing than blowing. Leave the blowing for birthday cakes. Yes?
What was that book that you said was no longer available in Australia?
It was called Sunflower Houses by Sharon Lovejoy.
I will certainly help by obtaining a block of these from overseas to save people going online and going through all the business of individual shipping.
Wonderful. David is a wonderful resource. Ongoing, not just at workshops like this. So keep in touch with him. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, we've got a 9-month-old child who is a difficult sleeper, always been nurtured to sleep. Just wondering what your thoughts are on getting a rhythm going, you know, with the controlled crying. There's all sorts of different things out there.
Probably, are you using family bed?
Yeah, we've been trying to put him in the cot to sleep, but he doesn't like it too much. He keeps waking up.
Yeah, he likes family bed
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Smart kid.
But the problem is he wakes up several times a night when he's in the bed.
Is he hungry and does the breast satisfy him?
I'm not sure if it's hunger or just the need that he has. I don't know.
But does it satisfy him?
Well, not when he wakes up 10 times a night, obviously. He keeps waking up, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it may be too quiet for him or something. It's hard
I
to
guess
tell.
my question more was what do you think about the controlled crying? You know, there's the buzzword goes around and you put the child down, let him cry until he goes to sleep.
Well, that's one of those old German things that's left over from the 20s, the Weimar Republic.
Yeah.
So I think maybe letting a child cry for a half hour is not what I think is a good thing.
No, that's what we've endured.
Yeah.
Felt as well,
And
yeah.
he'll outgrow it. I mean, you're not gonna spoil him or anything by having his needs and.
No, it's just more the mother needs. than
Yeah,
sleep
it
itself.
is. It's hard. You learn to sleep interrupted.
Australia has a group called the Australian Breastfeeding Association, and they've got counsellors and community educators and things, and you might want to get in touch with them because they're a wonderful resource.
Are they like La Leche League?
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
That's exactly.
Yeah, you might want to get in. That's a good idea.
Julie's actually a counsellor.
And another thing with that is if you're putting the baby into his bed, it doesn't smell like your bed. It does, and he's used to the smell of your bed and the sound of your bed and all of that sort of thing. So the sheet you use, change your bed more often and put the sheet that you're taking off your bed onto his bed, and he may settle better because he's in a familiar smell, a familiar environment. We use.
The funny thing is, like we've tried it, and he won't go to sleep easily, but when he does go to sleep in his own bed, he'll stay asleep longer. So it's like,
Yeah.
do you go? Which one do you go with? You know, it's causing
Well, you
him
may
to-
want to do a little bit of both.
Yeah, right.
But the smell factor is, a lot of people don't realise just how important that is, because we have the same problem. And I just found that I just put the clothes I wore that day in with my baby, because that was the only way he went to sleep.
Yeah.
Great idea. Great idea.
Nappies. You should have about 36 of them. Use them as his cuddle rug. Take them, drag them around all day, and then put it in his bed, because that's what he's had all day. It's his comfort. My 4-year-old still drags a nappy around, but we have 36 of them, so if he loses one, it doesn't matter.
Well, except that I remember my sister had we call them diapers there, but she had a diaper that only that one would work, no other one would work. And by the time she was 4 years old, it was 3 threads. So, yeah, and that's a good idea. To do that. You know, it's not going to change overnight, but you know, with
Yeah,
patience.
no, it's just horrible just putting a child down and letting him cry for that long.
Oh yeah, I can't stand
It doesn't feel like it's
I don't think that's.
Can your partner sleep while she's like suckling?
Well, she went 9 months without getting a good night's sleep, and she was at her wit's end basically, so that's why we thought we'll give this a
Over
go.
9 months.
So far.
I'm sure you, by the time they're 21, you won't have 21-year-old in your bed.
And they outgrow it, you know, and even if they're in your bed till they're 4 or 5 years old.
Oh yeah, that doesn't bother us. Yeah.
Okay. Are there other questions?
Barbara,
Yes.
I work with young people that have been adversely impacted by their environment. I'm not parenting, but counselling. With regards to young people that haven't had the benefit of the seeming good environment, is there anything that you would recommend? Because often these children come to therapeutic relationships after those 7 years, and maybe it will come later in your talk. You mentioned that the child regards everything as good in this setting and is accepting of everything as good. My experience is, yes, that is often true, and the child makes itself bad when things aren't good. If you've got any input in terms of how other ways of being with a child that's been damaged when it's very young
Yeah.
or older, I'd be welcome.
There are a lot of Waldorf initiatives that are working on remedial and curative things. There are curative eurythmists, there are color therapists, there are other regular movement therapists, and just the Waldorf education itself from 7 to 14 is a very healing process. In fact, a lot of parents who take it on find their own education and their own childhood to be quite a bit healed by it. You can't totally fix it, but you can make a huge difference. And in fact, I just met someone who had a really terrible abandoned childhood and ended up in a Waldorf school when he was about 9 or 10 years old, and it changed his life. So those kinds of things can happen. And we'll be doing a lot of activities during the second part of this lecture that will show you the kinds of things that are done in ages 7 to 14. And they are things that would be done with normal children, but they're curative for children who've had some, difficult times in their childhood. So I hope that helps. There are some books by Audrey McAllen that are helpful, and David has some of them on the table back there. There's a curative association in the U.S. I'll have to think of the name of it, and I can probably look up the website for you on the internet. Remind me tomorrow and I'll do that. The next 7 years (7, 14). Now, around age 7, the child's body changes, and it can be as early as 6 or maybe as late as 8 or 9. The limbs get longer in proportion to the head. And so a child can reach over his head and completely cover his ear. That shows that he's getting into the proportions of a 7 to 14-year-old child. The teeth change. Now, Steiner used the teeth change as a very important indicator for school readiness. Due to some of the things that we have manipulated in our environment, many children are changing their teeth much, much earlier. And it doesn't always mean that they're mature. It means that they've had more hormones in their milk, or they've had a night light on throughout their life, or they live in a place where there are street lights and it's never dark. If I want my chickens to lay earlier and keep laying all winter, I leave the light on. So you're going to have maturity occurring faster if children are in a lighted environment and never experience true darkness. So the hormones and just the pace of our lifestyle speeds things up for them, and it may not speed things up as far as the readiness thing is concerned. So watch out for the tooth thing. It may or may not be accurate, but some of the other things are. Another indicator is that their breathing and their heartbeats regulate. If you watch a small baby, their breathing is all over the place. Their heartbeat could vary by 100 beats. But a child who's stabilizing around 6 to 8 or 9 years old, his heart begins to beat 60 times a minute at resting. And he breathes every fourth beat. So those are some of the kinds of things. And then there are a lot more too. Can they tie their shoes? Can they do finger knitting? can they skip? Can they gallop? You know, can they differentiate between these different gaits? And if they can't, no, not a problem. No worries, as you say here. If you think about a child, and if you think about the production of anything good, a good thing takes longer to make. It makes sense that a good brain will take a little bit longer to mature. So if your child is late, that's probably not a sign that he's stupid or delayed. It's probably the opposite. You know, he's taking his time. He's working on this memory. He's working on this body pattern and making it something that is to be his. And I'd like to see somebody do a study. It would take 100 years to do it. I'd like to see if somebody who has a really good childhood with what Steiner described as a good childhood, if they live longer than somebody who hasn't, longer in a more healthy way. I'd really like to see a study done on that. Probably never will, but I'd be willing to bet that the long-lived person has had a good childhood. So, 7 to 14. Now the growth here is occurring in the rhythmic area. And somewhere in here, around 9 or 10, the child's I becomes I as separate. And that, at that point, it means truly separate. And for some children, it's a shock. It's painful. They can sometimes become rebellious. Some of them just get depressed, cry a lot, that kind of thing. But it's a recognition that true childhood is coming to an end, and that there's a certain amount of responsibility beginning to fall on their shoulders. And it's at that time that in the Waldorf curriculum, we talk about the Bible story, the fall of Adam and Eve in the garden. And children can really identify with that. And you'll see as we go through the curriculum that it's designed to meet the needs of the child on a feeling level throughout these 7 years. So, they call this the 9-year change. And you'll notice that there'll be special things that you'll want to do. There's a wonderful song called Ah, Poor Bird. And I've taught it to my 9-year-olds in my classes. And after a while, with most songs, you know, I phase them out and introduce new ones, and they get phased out. They never want to phase this one out. They want to keep singing it and playing it on their recorder every week for a couple of years sometimes. And it goes like this. Ah, poor bird, take thy flight far above the sorrows of this sad night. Ah, poor bird, take thy flight far above the sorrows of this sad night. And it makes a really good round. Let's divide right here. And I'll start this group. You two know it, so you can kind of lead, and then I'll start this group. Ah, poor bird, ah, poor bird, take thy flight far above songs like that and stories like that that really meet the needs of the child at this age. Now, here again, this is a waking time. And the child learns best throughout this period, through his feelings. And again, it'll be divided into 3 sections, and they'll be the same. The will, the feeling, the rhythmic, and it's not to say that all of these things aren't going on at all the time, but they will be most prevalent in these years, give or take a year or 2. The child sees beauty in everything. That's their gesture, is one of beauty. They like having beautiful things around them. They really enjoy the nature table and the candles and the cloths. All of those things they really enjoy.